So this is going to be a audio recording of the ancient Greek textbook pages 680 to 687. Not everything that you see on the text pages will be read, but the majority of what you see will be read. Definitely the main text will be read. Sometimes I will call out headings and subheadings, sometimes I won't. To start, early Greek culture, blue subheading, or blue heading on page 680. Suppose you and some friends wanted to go to the movies, but you could not decide which movie to see. Some of you might want to see the latest action thriller, while others are more in the mood for comedy. How could you decide which movie you would go see? One way to decide would be to take a vote. Whichever movie got more votes would be the one you saw. Did you know that by voting you would be taking part in a process invented some 2,500 years ago? It is true. One of the earliest peoples to use voting to make major decisions was the ancient Greeks. Voting was only one of many contributions the Greeks made to our culture, though, in fact, many people call ancient Greece the birthplace of modern civilizations. Early Greece could be a dangerous place. Waves of invaders swept through the land, and violence was common. Eventually, people began to band together in groups for protection. Over time, these groups developed into city states, or political units made up of a city and surrounding land. In the center of most city states was a fortress on a hill. This fortress was called the Acropolis, which is Greek for top city. In addition to fortress, many city states built temples and other public buildings on Acropolis. Around the Acropolis was the rest of the city, including houses and markets. High walls usually surrounded the city for protection. In wartime, farmers who lived outside the walls could seek safety inside. Living in city states provided many advantages for the Greeks. The city was a place where people could meet and trade. In addition, the city state gave people a new sense of identity. People thought of themselves as residents of a particular city state, not as Greeks. In time, some city states established new outposts or colonies around the Black and Mediterranean seas. You can see these colonies on the map above. Some of them still exist today as modern cities, such as Naples, Italy, and Marseille, France. Although they were independent, most colonies kept ties with older cities of Greece. They traded goods and shared ideas. These ties helped strengthen the economies of both cities and colonies, and they kept Greek culture strong. Because they stayed in contact, Greek cities all over Europe shared a common culture. When most people think of ancient Greek culture today, certain images come to mind. They think of the ruins of stately temples and of realistic statues. They also think of great writers, philosophers, and scientists whose ideas changed the world. These images represent some of the many contributions the Greeks made to world history. Remarkably, most of these contributions were developed during a relatively short time, between 500 and 300 BCE. For that reason, this period is often known as the Golden Age, a period in a society's history marked by great achievement. Early in Greece's history, city-states remained fiercely independent. Each city-state focused on its own concerns and did not interfere in the others' affairs. Around 500 BCE, however, an invading army caused the Greeks to band together against a common enemy. That invasion came from Persia. A powerful empire in Central Asia, the Persian army was huge, well-trained, and experienced. Greece, on the other hand, had no single army. Each city-state had an army, but none was as large as Persia. As a result, the Persians expected a quick victory. Nevertheless, the Greeks took up arms against the Persians, led by Athens, a city-state in eastern Greece. The Greeks were able to defeat the Persians and keep Greece from being conquered. When the Persians invaded again 10 years later, the Athenians once again helped defeat them. The victory over the Persians increased the confidence of people all over Greece. They realized that they were capable of great achievements. In the period after the Persian invasion, the people of Greece made amazing advances in art, writing, and thinking. Many of these advances were made by the people of Athens. In the century after the defeat of Persia, Athens was the cultural center of Greece. Some of the history's most famous politicians, artists, and thinkers lived in Athens during this time. One reason for the great advances of great advances the Athenians made during this time was their city's leadership. Leaders such as Pericles, who ruled Athens in 400 BCE, supported the arts and encouraged the creation of great works. For example, Pericles hired great architects and artists to construct and decorate the Parthenon, the temple that you see on pages 682 and 683. Leaders like Pericles had great power in Athens, but they did not rule alone. The city of Athens was a democracy, and its leaders were elected. In fact, Athens was the world's first democracy. No one else in history had created a government in which people ruled themselves. In Athens, most power was in the hands of the people. All the city's leaders could do was suggest ideas. Those ideas had to be approved by an assembly made up of the city's free men before they were enacted. As a result, it was vital that all men of Athens took part in making government decisions. The people of Athens were very proud of their democracy and also of their city in general. This pride was reflected in their city's buildings and art. Turn back to the previous page and look at the picture of the Parthenon again. Why do you think the temple was so large and so elaborately decorated? Like many Greek buildings, it was designed to be a symbol of the city. It was supposed to make people see Athens as a great and glorious city. The Parthenon may be the most famous building from ancient Greece, but it is only one of many magnificent structures built by the Greeks. All over Greece, builders created beautiful marble temples. These temples were symbols of the glory of the cities in which they were built. Greek temples and other buildings were often decorated with statues and carvings. These works by Greeks artists are still admired by people today. Greek art is so admired because of the skill and careful preparation of ancient Greek artists. These artists wanted their works to look realistic. To achieve their goals, they watched people as they stood and moved. They wanted to learn exactly what the human body looked like while it was in motion. The artists then used what they learned from their observations to make their statues as lifelike as possible. Artists were not the only people in ancient Greece to study other people. Scientists, for example, studied people to learn how the body worked. Through these studies, the Greeks learned a great deal about medicine and biology. Other Greek scholars made great advances in math, astronomy, and other areas of science. Greek philosophers or thinkers also studied people. They wanted to figure out how people could be happy. Three of the world's most influential philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, lived and taught in Athens during this time. Their ideas continue to shape how we live and think even today. The ancient Greeks also made huge contributions to world literature. Some of the world's timeless classics were written in ancient Greece. They include stories of Greek heroes and their daring adventures, poems about love and friendship, and myths meant to teach lessons about life. Chances are that you have read a book or seen a film or watched a play inspired by or even written by the ancient Greeks. Actually, if you've ever seen a play at all, then you have the Greeks to thank. The ancient Greeks were the first people to write and perform drama, or plays. Once a part of certain religious ceremonies, plays became one of the most popular forms of entertainment in Greece. As great as it was, the Greek Golden Age could not last forever. In the end, Greece was torn apart by a war between Athens and its rival city-state, Sparta. Sparta was a military city with one of the strongest armies in Greece. Jealous of the influence Athens had over other city-states, the Spartans attacked Athens. The war between these two powerful city-states devastated Greece. Other city-states joined the war, supporting one side or the other. For years the war went on. In the end, Sparta won, but Greece was in shambles. Thousands of people had been killed and whole cities had been destroyed. Weakened, Greece lay open for a foreign conqueror to swoop in and take over. In fact, a conqueror did take over all of Greece in the 330s BCE. For the first time in history, all of Greece was unified under a single ruler. He was from an area called Macedonia, just north of Greece, an area that many Greeks considered uncivilized. He was known as Alexander the Great. Alexander swept into Greece with a strong, well-trained army in 336 BCE. In just a few years, he had conquered all of Greece. Alexander, however, was not satisfied to rule only Greece. He wanted to create a huge empire. In 334 BCE, he set out to do just that. As you can see on the map on pages 686 and 687, he was quite successful. At its greatest extent, Alexander's empire stretched from Greece in the west all the way to India in the east. It included nearly all of Central Asia, including what had been the Persian Empire, and Egypt. Alexander had dreams of extending his empire even further east, but his troops refused to keep fighting. Tired and far from home, they demanded that Alexander turn back. He did, turning back toward home in 325 BCE. On his way back home, however, Alexander became ill and died. He was 33. During his life, Alexander wanted Greek culture to spread throughout his empire. To help the culture spread, he built cities. He built cities in the lands he conquered and urged Greek people to move there. He named many of the cities Alexandria after himself. As Greek people moved into these cities, however, they mingled with the people and cultures in the area. As a result, Greek culture blended with other cultures. The result was a new type of culture that had mixed elements from many people and places. Because the Greek word because the Greek word for Greek is Hellenic, historians often refer to these blended cultures as Hellenistic or Greek-like. Hellenistic culture helped shape life in Egypt, Central Asia, and other parts of the world for many years.